This is the church where Robert E. Lee and Jefferson Davis worshiped during the Civil War. In 2015, with the murder of the church members in Charleston at Mother Emanuel Church, shortly after, our rector, Wallace Adams-Riley, gave a sermon, and he said, "We need to get real about this and look around St. Paul's and look at the plaques on the walls and ask yourselves, is this a welcoming place? Are we welcoming everyone?"
There were Confederate symbols, even in prayer books and hymnals, that had been dedicated to people from the past. And I was like, oh, it was truly eye-opening.
This was our third trip to Richmond, and Richmond became very important to our work. It becomes important to the history of race in the South overall. It was the capital of the Confederacy, and ever since then, it has dealt with that history, dealt with that memory. And no place better than St. Paul's Episcopal Church. Do you see how people of faith, people of goodwill work through that very difficult history and find the narrative that they've wanted to tell forever? The lost cause really takes away a lot of that truth. And I think the thing that Pluribus Unum and our team are going to walk away from, and something that we want to amplify for other people doing this work, is that the amount of effort for healing and finding the truth should equal the amount of energy that went into changing it in the first place.
At Pluribus Unum, we think it's important to find those moments of quiet brilliance and identify organizations who are working on the ground, making it happen in communities, finding the truth, reconciling with the truth, and figuring out a way to move their community forward. Whether it's faith-based organizations, community-based organizations, or individuals, we are here to amplify their stories with the hope to inspire others, and also redefining what success looks like. Because success looks different from every community, and that's what we want to do on the engagement team, is find those people, bring those stories to light.
So the first time I was in the pulpit following the murders at Mother Emanuel Church in Charleston in the summer of 2015, I preached a sermon then that brought out, here's one way to think of it. It brought out into the open for this people of St. Paul's things that I had been wrestling with since coming to St. Paul's. It was not only about St. Paul's and St. Paul's identity, but also about my own identity. I myself am descended directly from 11 Confederate soldiers. They were my great-great-grandfathers and my great-great-great-grandfathers. So I had grown up with an awareness of them and an honoring and celebrating of them that was really honestly woven just into the fabric of life in ways very much like that Confederate history of St. Paul's was woven into its life all those years. But when I got up into the pulpit that Sunday, what I did was say, in the aftermath of what's happened at Mother Emanuel, what might God be saying to us now? And so what I did was pose two possibilities. I said, maybe it's that God would have us get involved with advocating for responsible, sane, humane policy in the Commonwealth of Virginia around guns. Maybe that's what God would call us to do in the aftermath of this. I said another possibility would be, what if God asks us now to have a conversation about the history of our St. Paul's parish, the history of this church, of this congregation. For us to talk about what it means for an African American man, woman, or child to walk into our church and to see on the walls images of the Confederate flag. Does he or she feel as welcome as anyone else, as any white person walking in here? And I pointed to some examples around the room, mentioning the kneelers up at the altar rail with the images of the Confederate flag as examples, mentioning a window dedicated to Davis, window dedicated to Lee. So is it time for us, I asked the congregation, to have a more honest, a deeper, a more uncomfortable conversation than we've ever had before about the identity of this congregation, of St. Paul's, as a church so deeply associated with the Confederacy?
The goal was to help this particular church that had been known as the Cathedral of the Confederacy finally take some steps.
What do we do with some of the dedications of the stained glass windows? The windows that are now dedicated to St. Paul and Moses were dedicated to Robert E. Lee and Jeff Davis. But we had to do the inner work before you can really do the outer work.
It was enlightening for me. It was opened my eyes to things that I thought I knew, but didn't. Why would you have emblems in your church that can cause pain to people? We all need to tell the truth and then move forward with what we've learned.
I had conversations with people whose families' names are on these plaques, who've gone to this church for generation upon generation, some of whom are proud of their past and some of whom are not.
Before we can get into any real actions or reparations or any kind of sense of reconciliation, first confession has to happen. And it has to be a confession from the perspective of what did the white people involved do.
I think we learned a lot, and I think there's been a lot of wisdom gained, and there's a lot to share to help inspire others to take the risk, to do the hard work of interrogating the past, to lead to more freedom, to really be able to do the work that I think the church is supposed to do, which is to restore people to unity with God and each other through Jesus Christ.
I want St. Paul's to be a model of what it looks like to look at our history and to say that change is possible. That's brave work. Those are brave conversations. And not every church is ready to do that. But when a church is ready to do that, when a church leader is ready to do that, I want them to be able to turn to us and to say, how did that go? What was it like? Where did you screw up? Where did you knock it out of the park? What would you do differently?
When you visit St. Paul's today, you will not see a plaque where Jefferson Davis and Robert E. Lee sat. This is a shrine to the glory of God and to our Lord Jesus Christ, and that's who we're about. And so, yes, there's the shame and the pain of that past, but it's up to us. It's our responsibility to know that history, but also to know the legacy, to know about systemic racism, to know about redlining, to know about inequality of the wealth gap, to know about the inequality of the school systems and why that exists today, to know that we need to listen to the Black community, to the minority community beyond the Black community of people of color, to people of all socioeconomic levels who were in need in this community, to listen, to know how to help instead of to assume and to impose a way of helping. By knowing our history, we can better engage the present and to know how to go forward in the future and to find partnerships and to stay engaged and to continue to listen.
E pluribus unum.
Out of many, one.
Out of many, one.
Out of many, one.